this morning? Sounds like you're still half asleep. Okay, so we'll continue on. Today we'll start as we usually do with some meditation, but we also have some chanting that we do before. And the chanting is to help steer our minds in a positive direction. Okay, so the chanting, when we talk about the Buddha's qualities and the Dharma and the Sangha's qualities, it's not because they need praises. Okay, it's because we need to learn how to see others' good qualities and comment on them. So the similar thing when you're doing prostrations in the morning, the Buddha doesn't need us to bow to him. I mean, when you're enlightened, you don't have those kind of ego issues. Oh, I need people to bow and exclaim my wonderful qualities and give me presents. That's not the enlightened state. But we need to learn to bow. Bowing is a sign of respect. And respect is kind of in short change in this country. Yeah, we don't tend to hold respect as a value, and we often confuse respect with fear. Yeah, so if you're afraid of somebody, you're like this, and we think that's respecting them. That's not respect. That's fear. Okay. Respect is when we can see good qualities and be inspired by them. And when we can be inspired by other people's good qualities, then that helps us develop those same good qualities. Yeah. So it's not a thing of, for the sake of the beings we respect, that they need that. Yeah. It's we need to learn how to see others' good qualities and then work at developing them in our own selves. Okay. Similarly, with the offerings, the Buddha doesn't need a cantaloupe. Yeah, so, if you're a Buddha, what do you need a cantaloupe for? Yeah. But we need to learn how to make offerings. Yeah, we need to learn generosity. And so making offerings on the altar, making offerings to other living beings, it's a practice of generosity that is good for us. Yeah, because I don't know about you, but some of us, like me, have a problem with being stingy and miserly. Yeah, maybe because you didn't have very much. I'm going to come to a story about my poverty later on. But we need to learn to share. And what I found living in India, in the Tibetan community especially, was sometimes the people who were the poorest were the most generous. Yeah, because they just figured, well, we don't have much and neither does anybody else, so we might as well share. Yeah, and it was really beautiful. I remember one time there, His Holiness's residence was on the top of a hill, and on the sides of the hill you had sometimes these little huts made of mud or bricks, and the roof was made. They took the big ghee cans. Ghee is like a liquefied butter that they have in India, and cut open the metal, of the cans, because that was very precious. And then you made that was the slabs of the roof. Okay, so a little bit different than the Buddha Hall. But of course, they didn't have inspectors that came, and we do. So, so there were some nuns living in one of those dirt floor, okay, mud walls, mud brick walls, and then this tin from the cans as the roof. And they had a little stove, a kerosene stove, and kerosene is not very good for you to burn in a small environment. You know, you have to be very careful, otherwise you can get you could die from inhaling it too much. So one day they invited me for tea, and I mean, they had nothing. Yeah, it was not too long after Tibetan New Year. In Tibetan New Year, you have these kapse, which are like fried donuts, except they aren't round. And so those are the really treasured things. They're the big treat at New Year's. And they shared their kapse with me. They made tea on their little kerosene stove. We sat on the dirt floor and had tea together. And they were so generous and so happy, even though they had nothing. Yeah. And on the other hand, and they were perfectly fine sharing, you know, kind of, they weren't stingy about the kapse. And then I remember one time I spoke with one woman in another country, extremely wealthy. She had houses there, she had houses in the US, so unhappy. Yeah, so unhappy. Her family, you know, things happening with her kids, just the whole social situation. Yeah. And you know, clinging on to what she had. So I, you know, when we practice generosity, giving a cantaloupe to the Buddha, you know, it's loosening our own heart and helping us share with others. And that creates a good feeling, not only in ourselves, but among the people that we live with. Okay, so that's why we make offerings on the, you know, on the shrine and so forth. Yeah, Buddha doesn't need that. We need to do it. Okay. So we'll start with some verses that we chant, praising the Buddha, and then we do what's called a mandala offering, where you put your fingers in pretzel position. Yeah. So the people, if you go to the Q&A at 2:00, I think it is, they can show you how to do that. But what we're doing in that is we're offering the universe and everything beautiful in it. So yesterday I was talking about how we see ourselves as like the center of the universe and everything revolves around me. Yeah. And I want to get everything I like close to me and get rid of everything I don't like. But when we think, okay, the whole universe, whether we own things or not, it could be owned and unowned things, that we're offering those to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, yeah, on behalf of all the living beings. And again, it's a practice of generosity. It's a practice so that we don't cling to things in our environment, because clinging brings suffering. Yeah, we're not always aware of how clinging and craving function in our own lives. But once we start being aware of that, we really see that, you know, the universe is supposed to revolve around me, and I want all these things, and I cling to them. And I have a whole package of tissues, but I'm not going to share them with you because I might need them later. So if you have a running nose, too bad. Okay, go get your own tissue. You know, this is the way the mind is sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. And So when we think of offering the universe, it's a way to free us from that clinging, because the more we cling, the more anxiety and fear we have. Yeah, because when you have stuff, what's going on? You're afraid of losing it. Yeah, so you have to have an alarm system in your house, yeah, in case somebody breaks in. Of course, if you have me stay there, I will surely set off the alarm early in the morning accidentally. The last time I stayed there, you say. But, if we can loosen ourselves against all this clinging, then our mind is so much more relaxed. Okay. One of my teachers had these little pith instructions. One of them was come, come, go, go. So no, it wasn't a Dick and Jane book from first grade. It sounds like one, but it's, things come to us and things go. They come and they go, and they aren't ours to hold on to forever. And that even includes our body. We're going to have to give up this body at some time or another. Yeah. So the more we cling, yeah, then the more we're anxious about losing it. Okay. The more we fear about losing things. And this goes not only for material possessions, it goes for our accomplishments. Yeah. I was talking with one friend of mine who she was in some kind of program, and she got like the highest score of all the people. Yeah. And you're supposed to be happy when you have the highest score and, you get the award and da, 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 da. But she said, actually, it made her more anxious because how was she going to pull that off again? Yeah. Once you win one Olympic medal, everybody's expecting you to win two. And when you win two, you should win four. And how are you going to measure up to that? Not only other people's expectations, but yourself. Yeah. And I was the best. So how can I be anything less than the best now? Yeah. And then anxiety, fear comes. What's going to happen to our reputation? Somebody else is going to get the promotion, not me. They're going to get the award of being the best employee for the month, not me. It's really not very happy making. Yeah. And it goes for clinging to anything in our life. When you're young, you're attractive, you're healthy, you think you're always going to be like that. Let me tell you, you're always going to be like that, with a few exceptions, because this hurts and that doesn't work, and you have to go to the doctor for this, and you can't get out of bed because of that. Okay, but how are everybody in the society wants to look good and look attractive, and and we look at all the magazines and how they all look, and tell me please, who is getting younger and more attractive? Yeah, anybody here getting younger and more attractive? Anybody? Yeah, that's the ideal in our society. What we're supposed to be is young and more attractive, but nobody is becoming that. Yeah. And so if you think, I've got to look good, like, do I have a facelift? Do I have Botox? Do I dye my hair? Do I get some hair? The guys have that problem. Huh? Yeah. What am I going to do with my hair? Should I dye it pink? Should I dye it green? Yeah, ask him. Yeah. Before he ordained, he showed us some pictures of what he looks like. Yeah. So who is getting younger and more attractive? Not even the models in the magazines and the people on TV. Yeah. Do you think that if you look like, well, Rambo's old now. Who's yeah? Who's the young one that, I don't know. They're having some knockdown fight now somewhere. Yeah. But, do you think if you look like that image of, male masculinity, or do you think that if you look like Beyonce, yeah, do you think you're going to be happy? Yeah. It really cracks me up, when you see these red carpet affairs. Yeah. The women have got to be freezing cold because they're wearing as little clothes as possible. And the men have to be sweating because they're up to here with their suits and ties and there's no ventilation and 3 jackets. Yeah? You think you can be happy looking like that? So clinging to our physical image, clinging to our reputation, these kinds of things, uh, the more clinging we have, the more anxiety we have. Yeah. We may have those things, but without clinging, then they don't disturb our mental peace. But when we cling, oh boy. Yeah. And then when you get too old to cling to your things, then you cling to your kids' accomplishments. Yeah. My kid graduated kindergarten with 5 gold stars. I'm such a proud parent. Yeah. Are you inculcating that kind of rubbish in your kid? That getting gold stars means you're a good person? Do they give gold stars nowadays, or am I too antiquated? Yeah. Anybody who has kids? Some of you. Yeah. So do they give gold stars? No. What do they do? You what? You try to avoid doing that now. Oh. They've understood that that's not the best way, so they try to attract it. So now you give everybody stars. Okay. Yeah. So everybody gets stars now. Yeah. So, yeah. And so you think that your self-esteem comes from gold stars on a piece of paper. Yeah. Is that what we're teaching children? I hope not. Yeah. Let's teach them that they're good human beings just because they have a kind heart, because they have potential, because they can share, they can contribute. They don't, Melania's thing was be best. Remember that was her slogan, be best. Whenever you have best, only one person can be best. Only one is best. Then everybody else ranks at different levels of failure because you're not best. And you're no good unless you are best. And you manage to maintain being best again and again and again. Yeah, pretty exhausting. Yeah, so this is all a product of clinging and craving, and a product of thinking of getting our self-esteem from the wrong sources. Yeah. Because in grammar school, you may be, the best baseball player, you may be the best nerd, whatever it is. But then as soon as you go to high school, there's more people there and you aren't best. And when you get to higher education, then definitely you're not best. Yeah. You go, but in third grade, I did so well in third grade. What happened? Yeah. Okay. So it's all really a big setup for low self-esteem, for feeling like a failure. Mhm. We compare ourselves with others. Oh, we all get gold stars now, but their gold stars were brighter than mine, you know? Okay, so, this all revolves around attachment, stinginess, miserliness. Yeah? And so we see how those kind of mental qualities cause so much suffering in our lives. Mhm. Okay, so now maybe we should start the session. I go off on, whatever happens to come out, comes out. Okay, so we'll do the chanting, then have some silent meditation, cultivate our motivation, and then go into the teachings. So when we do the chanting, we visualize in the space in front of us the Buddhas and all the other holy beings with bodies made of light. And we think of ourselves surrounded by all the living beings in human form. And all of us cultivating this mind of respect, knowing that if other people have these wondrous qualities, we can develop them too.
To the teacher and now transcend and destroy
the one that's gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, over the world's supreme being seating. Teacher of gods and humans, to the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, the abyss of the strives and set as supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With your body's form supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, winner the best, supreme guide, to you I bow. With a supreme science, face like a spotless moon, colored like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the three worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning and clouds, you condition things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue foe faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, Portland, sun and moon, imagine let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamiyatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So we'll create our motivation now. So begin by thinking of all the people who are suffering because of clinging and craving for things. Some clinging and craving to material objects or money, some to relationships and the people in their lives, others to their status or to praise and reputation. So extend your mind throughout the world and think of all the unhappiness that exists because of clinging and craving. And make specific examples in your mind. And of course, think of your own suffering from clinging and craving. And then consider how all that misery is really unnecessary. Because the things that we cling and crave to are going to disappear anyway. Their nature is that they're transient, they're impermanent, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. But we can change our mind, so as things change, we can accept the change. So acceptance is something quite important. We may not like how things change, but the more we refuse to accept the change, the more suffering we have. The more we're able to accept that things change, because that's their nature, then the more peace of mind we have. So think of that in terms of yourself and in terms of all other living beings. and with a sense of compassion for all living beings who find it difficult to accept change, who are faced with losing the things that they cling to. Develop a sense of compassion, wanting them to be free from that misery. And then make a determination to reduce your clinging and craving, increase your compassion, to attain full awakening, so that you can be of the greatest benefit to all living beings. And that be our motivation for sharing today. Okay, so I thought to talk a little bit more about karma before we get into the specific verses. Yeah. So they say there's 4 general characteristics of karma that it's helpful to understand. Yeah. Well, and first of all, just to understand, the Buddha did not make up karma. Yeah. The Buddha did not create cyclic existence. He didn't make up the path to be free of it. He didn't create karma. What the Buddha did was simply describe the situation that we're born into and describe the path of how to free ourselves from it and how to develop the very strong resolve to help free others from it as well. So the Buddha is not a creator, and he doesn't manage the universe, dishing out rewards and punishments. Okay, so you don't get a good rebirth because you offered a cantaloupe instead of a tangerine, and a cantaloupe is bigger. What creates good karma is basically your intention of making the offering. Okay, so one characteristic of karma is that virtue, kindness, honesty, these kinds of qualities are always the cause of happiness. They're never the cause of misery. And non-virtue, self-centeredness, anger, jealousy, arrogance, and so on, these are always the cause of misery, never the cause of happiness. Okay. Now, the misery and the happiness means the karmic results of something which may happen in a future life. Because somebody may say, well, I really want that and I stole it and I'm happy now. So my greediness brought me happiness. No, it's the greed is not the karmic cause of your happiness from stealing. The greed is the karmic cause of your non-virtue from stealing. Okay, that creates the cause to have to lack what you need in future lives. Okay, so even though we may do virtuous things and we don't get any happiness this lifetime from them, still they're creating this reservoir of good energy that will ripen in future lifetimes. Okay, and the same thing for non-virtue. We may think, well, I work at this company, I can take a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and nobody's going to notice, and they're not paying me enough anyway, so I deserve to take some of their stuff, or I deserve to claim I worked more hours than I actually worked, and we justify and rationalize things, but essentially what we're doing is taking what hasn't been freely given. And so we may say, oh, well, I got some happiness from that, but the non-virtue from our, motivation is going to create unhappiness, if not later in this life, then in future lives. Okay, so we should always have the confidence that when we do something with a motivation of kindness, with generosity, honesty, sharing, wishing others well, that it will always bring happiness, maybe not immediately, but later on, okay? Because we may be very generous and give somebody something, and maybe they don't like it, and they throw it out, and we go, oh, I saved so hard to buy that present for them, and they don't appreciate it. They threw it out. Oh, I'm so miserable. I'm not going to be generous anymore because they don't appreciate. Well, your generosity is good, and then that part will bring some good results. But dare I say that if we give and then afterwards we feel like we weren't appreciated enough, that our giving wasn't completely pure. We wanted some ego boost from it. Not just wanted, we expected a thank you, some appreciation, somebody telling us how kind and wonderful and loving we were. Yeah, and they didn't do that. Okay, interesting to check. Uh-huh. I read one thing. One of the inmates I correspond with sent me something, and it was a column of some sort or another, and in it there was somebody saying, "My husband never tells me that I'm beautiful enough. I get a new dress, I cut my hair. He never comments on it. I don't feel loved. I really wish he would tell me I look beautiful." And then the advice column, gave this person all this kind of crummy advice about how to get your husband to tell you that you look good. Yeah, but what are you getting out of actually doing that? Yeah. And okay, so the husband tells you, you look beautiful, you the most wonderful, and then you tell him, he's the most wonderful, good looking, whatever, and that constitutes caring for each other. It's kind of, I think it's really pitiful. Yeah, when we rely on other people telling us that we look good in order to feel good about ourselves. Yeah. What does look good mean? Yeah. How does that make you a good person? I have no idea. But the point here is, we may get what we want. You may manipulate somebody into saying what you want them to say. Yeah. And that may make you happy, but that's that happiness is the result of some previous karma of generosity and kindness in a previous life. That happiness is not a result of manipulation. Okay, so we have to discern the difference between the karmic cause, what an action's real result is going to be in the future, versus the temporary result, that we get from an action. Mm-hmm. Is that clear for people? Yeah. Okay. So, so virtue always creates happiness, non-virtue creates misery. Yeah. And then the second characteristic of the karma is that even a small action can bring a big result in the future. Yeah. And so the analogy that's given is you have a small seed that can grow into a big tree. So, living out here, you see that a lot. You can see we have some pretty big trees, and they all started from something this big. Isn't that kind of amazing? How something this big can produce a huge tree. Yeah. So it's the same way within our own mind, that a small action, can just gestate in our mind and produce a big result. Yeah. So a small virtue can produce a lot of happiness. A small bit of non-virtue can produce a lot of unhappiness. Mm-hmm. And we can often see this in our lives, just in the span of one lifetime. I do prison work, so I like to tell some of the stories that the guys tell me. So this one guy who talked about SIDS, seemingly insignificant decisions. Okay? So we make seemingly insignificant decisions all day long. But those seemingly, that's the key word, insignificant decisions can bring very big results. Yeah. And it's interesting to look at your life and look at certain moments where you could have chosen to do this or that, and how much by choosing this or that, it unfolded into the whole rest of your life and affected everything, almost everything you did after that. Okay. So, for example, I try and give examples so people can get the personal sense of it. Okay. So I was living in Los Angeles, had my job, relationship, life was good. I went to Bodhi Tree Bookstore on Melrose. Some of you may know Bodhi Tree Bookstore. That was the Inn bookstore. Okay, yeah, you know it. So, so I went there, and this is 1975, and I saw a flyer on a wall for a meditation course taught by 2 Tibetan lamas. So I was a teacher. I had nothing to do in the summer. So I thought, let's go. I have no idea. I had never meditated before. I had no idea. I didn't know the difference between Hinduism, Buddhism, or the difference between Nyingma, Kharya, Yelu, and Sakya. I didn't know anything. But I thought, well, let's go. That was a seemingly insignificant decision. Yeah, totally insignificant, and when you think of all the decisions you make during one day. But because of that decision to attend that course, my whole life changed. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't gone to that bookstore on that Sunday morning, you know? So to look in our lives, because sometimes we think, oh, I'll just tell a little white lie. Yeah, it's just a little one. That's why it's called a little white lie. Yeah, it's not a bad lie. It's a little white lie. And I'm doing it out of compassion for other people, because if they knew the truth, that it would really hurt them to the core. So for their benefit, out of compassion, this little white lie, I cheated on my partner, but it's just a little white lie saying that I was doing something else that evening. No harm in that. Until your partner finds out, your kids find out, your family shatters. Yeah. So there was a little action you did, being unfaithful, and sometimes it's the lie that actually ruins relationships more than the action we did that we're trying to cover up. Yeah. It's quite interesting to see, how we don't want to tell the truth, but often if we tell the truth, other people will forgive us. But once we lie, the lying really breaks trust. Yeah, big time. Yeah. So, but if you don't want to tell the truth because you did something and somebody's going to be really upset or really hurt, then consider not doing that action to start with. Yeah. Okay. You can ask Bill Clinton about this kind of thing. Okay. You can ask Donnie about that kind of thing. Yeah. But look what happens, what little white lies do. They they grow into big things. So the same thing, when it comes to virtue, don't say, well, I don't want to make offerings this morning. I'm just, I could offer that cantaloupe, or actually I have to take the cantaloupe down because I offered it yesterday. But there's cookies. Ooh, the kind of cookies I really like. Yeah, I could offer those today, but actually I want to eat them. Yeah, because eating the cookies will make me happy. So Buddha can just stick with the cantaloupe for another day. Or maybe I'll offer an apple instead. But we give up the opportunity to create a little bit of virtue. Yeah. Somebody asks us to help them with something, and we don't feel like it. This is one of the things I find so curious. What does I don't feel like it mean? What does it feel like in your body? What's going on in your mind? We all say, I don't feel like it. But what is it? What is I don't feel like it? Okay, that's another thing. Yeah. But, so we give up the opportunity to help somebody just by doing some small action to help them. Yeah. We have the opportunity to create virtue. We don't do it. Okay. So when we think that a small action can bring a big one, then we'll do those small actions. I mean, it could bring a big result, then we'll do the small actions because they can bring a big result. And similarly, when it comes to little white lies, we won't tell them because we realize that a small negative action can bring a lot of unhappiness later. And you can see that very much in your own life about the example I just gave. Yeah. most of the guys who are imprisoned, who I write to, were intoxicated at the time they did their, whatever they got busted for. Okay, so just, what's so wrong with getting drunk? What's so wrong with shooting up? What's so wrong with smoking this or that? It's just a little bit. Yeah, for one evening. Yeah, and then, the whole course of your life is changed. Yeah. And think about it, just the example last week or the week before, of the homeless man who some ex-Marine held in a chokehold and killed him on the subway. So this man, he was homeless. He was, kind of talking out loud to himself. He wasn't doing anything harmful. But this guy, did a chokehold, held him in a chokehold for 15 minutes. Yeah. I mean, he was probably dead after just 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah. One small action, because of one uncontrolled mind that thought he was doing something good. He was going to protect everybody else from this homeless man who was not hurting anybody, was okay talking aloud in the subway. Yeah, but I think people do that a lot in subways in New York. Okay. But one small action that took just a few minutes. I mean, this guy's getting tried for, I don't know if it's manslaughter or murder, but he's going to have some jail time. Okay. So to really not just say, oh, it's a small negativity, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But to try and really be conscientious about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, the third quality of karma is if you don't create the cause, you're not going to get the result. So if you abandon the negative actions, yeah, stealing, killing, yeah, this kind of stuff, lying, if you abandon that, then you're not going to experience the karmic result of misery that comes from doing those actions. Similarly, if we don't create virtue, we're also not going to experience the karmic result. So if we don't practice generosity, we're not creating the karmic cause for wealth. Yeah, we tend to think that stinginess is the cause of wealth. Yeah, if I hold on to things, I will be wealthy. If I give them away, I won't be. But in terms of karma, when we have a generous heart, that creates the cause for wealth. When we are very stingy, it creates the cause for poverty. And I'll tell you another personal story regarding that. Okay, so the beginning years of when I was a nun, I was very poor, and I was living in India. I had $50 to my name. I didn't have a return ticket to the West. And if I returned to the West, what was I going to do anyway? I didn't have a job or a place to live. So I was like really stingy. And when I walked down to the market to buy vegetables, I would pass our community had, lepers that lived there. The beggars were part of the community. You kind of saw them, you knew them. And I would walk past them, and I couldn't bring myself to part with 25 paisa. 25 paisa was it was a quarter of a rupee at that. So it was maybe about 25 cents in those days, 20 cents, I don't know. But I couldn't part with that so that they could have even a cup of tea because I had so little, I had to hold on to it. Okay, I finally did come back to the West, and I was living in the horse stables at a Dharma center. The nuns got the horse stables, yeah. The monks got the house that was bought for the nuns but went to the monks, and the nuns got the horse stables. So our rooms were really cold because they didn't have insulation, you know. They were built for the horses, not for humans. And so really cold in the winter. And I was quite miserable from being cold. And one day, yeah, I just sat there and I said, why am I cold? You know, because I don't have enough money. We had to pay for the heating ourselves. And because I don't have enough money. Why don't I have enough money? Yeah, because I'm stingy. I'm not very generous. And it really hit me, you know. It's like, oh, I created the cause of this through my own miserliness. You know, it wouldn't have killed me to give 25 pesa to the lepers in our community so they could have some tea. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. Even though I had the voice of my teacher in my ear, because I would attend teachings in the morning, and this is the kind of thing he taught us. And I thought, oh yeah, that's wonderful. Generosity is so wonderful. Especially other people's generosity. I wish they would give me something because I'm poor. Wrong way of thinking. Okay. But it really hit me once I was living in Europe, you know, I brought this on. So I decided I needed to learn to be more generous. Yeah. There's a story of a woman at the time of the Buddha. I wonder if I am her incarnation. But she was so stingy, yeah, that the way the Buddha trained her to practice generosity was he gave her a carrot, and her practice was to give the carrot from one hand to the other, just to practice giving. So that carrot went back and forth to practice giving. And eventually she learned to, instead of giving it to her other hand, to give it to somebody else's hand. Yeah. Skillful means to teach somebody generosity, huh? So, yeah, if you don't create the cause, you don't experience the result. Huh? So we may want all sorts of good results. Yeah. And we may pray a lot to the Buddha, you know, Buddha, 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 please, may I be cured of my illness, may I have money, please. We all the time in our prayers, you know, please inspire me to generate, you know, impartial compassion for all sentient beings. Please inspire me to, you know, realize the nature of reality. So many things, recitations. We're asking the Buddha, you know, please bless me for this and that. His Holiness Dalai Lama says prayers are very good, but if you don't do anything, you're not going to get the result. Yeah. So he said, don't just rely on praying. Yeah. The aspiration from praying is good, but you have to do, you have to act. Yeah. May all sentient beings be happy as I cheat them. Yeah, by overcharging them or, taxing the poor people and letting the rich people, become richer, if you have the power to do something about it. So, the whole thing is we have to act, not just inspire. If you don't create the cause, you don't get the result. And the same thing is true for our negative actions. Yeah. And so, I'm going to bring up something that might be kind of touchy for people. But 9/11, the people who were stuck in the World Trade, in the towers, that World Trade Center, yeah. So there's so many stories about people who worked in the World Trade Center, but that particular day they didn't go to work. Yeah, it was their child's first day at school, so they took their child to school. They didn't go to work that day. Yeah. So the other people in their office on the who knows what floor were killed, but they survived. Okay. So this is a result of previously created karma. That person who chose that morning not to go to the World Trade Center to work, where they usually are, they didn't experience the result of that, the painful result. Yeah. So, but the other people who did do something, to bring on that painful result were there. And some of the people who were died were people who never worked in the World Trade Center, hardly ever went there, or never went there before, but just that morning went. Yeah. So all this has to do with previously created karma. If you create the cause is going to come. If you don't create the cause, the result's not going to come. Okay. Actually, I said that first part erroneous. The fourth characteristic of karma is if you create the cause, you will definitely experience the result because karma doesn't get lost. Okay, it's not like your computer files, or at least my computer files. Yeah, I remember the first time I was transcribing something, and I was working at my friend's office on the weekend when nobody was there because I didn't have a computer. And I was transcribing, I transcribed pages and pages and pages. And I didn't know much about working on the computer, so I didn't know how to save it. Yeah. And I thought I saved it. I was sure I saved it. But when I came in to continue, hours of transcribing were gone. Yeah. My file disappeared. Yeah. Into nowhere. Yeah. Where are you going to look for a computer file that disappeared? Okay. You can find it, I know. Yeah. She's very good at this stuff. But me, forget it. So, the karma we create doesn't just disappear. May have been created a long time ago. It doesn't get stale. Yeah. It doesn't get moldy and thrown out of your mind stream. Okay. The results definitely going to be experienced unless if we consider negative karma, if we do purification practices, then that will lessen the impact of the karma. So maybe the negative karma won't ripen so soon, it will ripen later, or maybe when it ripens, it won't be such a strong, painful result. It'll be less painful. So we do purification practices, that will interfere with the ripening of the negative karma. Okay, so that's why we're doing prostrations, we recite Vajrasattva mantra, these kinds of things. Yeah. The ultimate purification is if we realize the nature of reality. That will take those karmic seeds out of the mind stream, burn them and throw them out. Yeah. In terms of our virtuous actions, they're definitely going to ripen too, unless we interfere with their ripening, by getting angry and generating wrong views. So this is a really interesting thing to think about when you're getting angry, okay? So you're getting angry. Lots of things we get angry about are really small things, that we blow up and they become quite huge. It's good to ask yourself when you're in the process of getting angry, or being spiteful or wanting revenge, to say, am I willing, this is going to cost me the results of my virtuous karma. Am I enjoying this anger, this vengeance so much that I'm willing to destroy my virtuous karma and not experience the result? I find that very effective for my mind. It's like, no, I worked hard to create some virtue. I don't want to burn it. Anyway, being angry doesn't make me happy. So why do I, cherish my anger so much and stay angry for a long time? It really is silly. Yeah. Okay, so we can affect the ripening of our virtuous karma, by anger and wrong views. And we can affect the ripening of our destructive karma by doing purification practices. Okay, so those are the four general characteristics of karma. Okay, so now I should probably talk about the book. That's supposed to be the subject of the retreat, but got to fill you in. Yeah.
So we can say that a fifth characteristic is that karma is impermanent. That when the yes, I think if when the cause, the effect arise, the cause disappear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When it's like a seed, when the seed ripens into a plant, when it blooms into a plant, the seed is gone, it's finished. Yeah. So when our karma ripens, it's no longer there. But if we're smart, and we have good karma ripen, like this lifetime having the rebirth that we have, then we'll use the good ripening result to create more virtuous karma.
And which is the role of the dedication of our actions?
Okay, the reason we dedicate at the end, for example, the teachings, the meditation, any good action we do, it's saying, it's steering that virtue so that it will ripen in the enlightenment of all living beings. Okay, if we, and that's why it's important that we dedicate with that really vast result in mind, the enlightenment of all beings. If we dedicate, by this virtue, may I win the lottery. Well, maybe you'll win the lottery. Maybe this life, future lives, you'll win the lottery. And then you're gonna think you're happy, and you're actually gonna have more problems than you had before. Yeah. So, we try and, usually when people pray, when they dedicate for things of this life. Yeah. And, may I win the lottery, may my children get into good schools, may, my diseases and the diseases of everybody in my family be cured. May I get a corner office, whatever it is that you're wanting. Yeah, we usually pray for that kind of stuff and dedicate that for that. And here, what we're really trying to do is expand our mind and not just think in terms of this life. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's true, this life is here and it's important. But in this life, we're also creating the cause for future lives. Now, some people may say, well, why should I create a cause for a future life? That's going to be a different person. Well, who you are today is the result of a lot of previous people in your mind stream in a previous life. You're experiencing that result. You have a pretty good life this time. Yeah. Are you thankful to your previous lives who created the cause for it? Yeah. People don't think about that. Yeah. They don't think, oh, in a previous life, I really put a lot of energy into trying to be kind and generous and helpful. And that's why I have the good conditions I have now. Yeah. Instead, we kind of come into this life and I deserve everything. The world owes me. I am entitled to everything. And if the world doesn't give me, then something's wrong with the world. Yeah. If the world doesn't give me what I want, I can protest, I can complain, I can throw myself a big pity party. Well, congratulations. Yeah, if you like pity parties, yeah, we can spend our whole life throwing pity parties. Why other people got things we didn't. Or we could let go. Come, go. Huh? Don't hold grudges because you didn't get something in the past. Yeah, it's interesting to look at the grudges we hold. I'm going to talk about that later, otherwise I'll never get to the book. Okay, but this verse is really a good one. So number 9, we talked about physical suffering. Okay, number 10 is about mental suffering. How many of you have had more mental suffering in your life than physical? Yeah, amazing, isn't it? Yeah. When my mind falls prey to suffering, it is the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me, for definitely causing turbulence in the hearts of others. From now on, I will take all suffering upon myself. Okay, when my mind falls prey to suffering, I'm jealous. Other people have better than I do. The world is unfair to me. I don't credit. Other people do. Yeah. Other people are more good looking. They are more athletic. They are more artistic. I am not. Yeah. My parents wanted me to be a rocket scientist, and I disappointed them. Yeah. Because who wants to be a rocket scientist? Well, some people do. Great. You can pollute the universe by shooting more rockets up and sell tickets to go in outer space. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah, people pay incredible amounts of money to go in outer space for, how long is it? How long? Musk sends you up. Everything that goes up must come down. Yeah, you come down, you're poor. Yeah. So, yeah, but other people got to go up in space. I didn't. I have so much mental suffering. Yeah, I'm not appreciated. Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. Nobody loves me. Oh my goodness, that's what I cried about during college. Nobody loves me. Actually, a lot of people loved me. I couldn't even see it. I was that blind. Yeah. But nobody loves me. Mental suffering, other people get credit for things that I do. Other people are better than me. I had high expectations of myself. So did other people. And I didn't perform well enough. Yeah. You're Simone Biles. And then at the Olympics, you get, what did she call it that she got? You get dizzy and she couldn't do the things and she had to stay out of some of the things from the last Olympics. Yeah, she handled it very, very well, but she could have done a really big pity party with mental suffering. All these people expected me to perform so well, and I got the shakies or twisties, whatever, the gymnasts call it, and I couldn't do it. So now they don't love me. I disappointed the world. Okay, so mental suffering. We all have our own variety of it, don't we? Yeah. And boy, our mental suffering. Yeah. Do we give it up easily? No. We hold our mental suffering as if it were this adorable newborn child. My self-pity. Poor me. Oh, you poor baby. The world is unfair. Go ahead and get angry because they're really nasty people and don't appreciate you. Yeah, we run the same video in our mind day after day. Yeah. Well, we learned it in grammar school, okay? Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms. Is that dated, or do kids still say that today? How many did still say it today? How many of you learned that in grammar school? Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms. Yeah. So, Geshe-la, this is American culture. You're learning the best of America. Yeah. So you either feel sorry for yourself or you're angry. And they come to the same point, the world isn't fair to me, so I have a right to be angry. Yeah. So you threw sand at me, I'm going to throw sand at you. You threw rocks at me, I'm going to throw rocks at you. You bullied me, I'm going to bully you. No, I won't bully you because you're too stronger than me. I'll bully somebody else. Okay. So when my mind falls prey to suffering, even a bad mood, how many of you have bad moods a lot? Oh, some people at the Abbey didn't raise their hands. Remember, if you don't tell the truth, it's a lie. Yeah. So sometimes seemingly no reason is actually a karmic result of past non-virtue, but seemingly no reason, I'm in a bad mood. It's the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me. What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? Okay. For definitely causing turbulence in the hearts of others. oh, me? Hurting other people's feelings? Making them confused? Being the source of my actions, being the source of their unhappiness? Lying to them and making them confused? Not following through on promises I made? All sorts of different ways to cause turbulence in the minds of others. Yeah. Do we ever consider that when we're in the process of causing that turbulence? No. Yeah. When you lie to somebody, are you thinking that it's going to cause turbulence in their minds? When you're dishonest, are you thinking that it'll cause turbulence in their minds? If you don't fulfill promises, we never think that that's going to cause turbulence in their minds and ultimately result in me having turbulence in my mind and having mental unhappiness. Yeah. The principal cause came from my actions. Okay. So what am I going to do about it? Two things. One is, in the future, I'm going to try and not make other people confused and hurt their feelings. Yeah. Sometimes we hurt people's feelings when we had no intention to. That's something different. They may have misinterpreted what I said, or been really, really sensitive. But other times, we don't mind causing a little bit of turbulence. Okay, think about family meals. Have you ever noticed at family meals that, when you come together for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it is, it's a big family meal, everybody's going to be happy, right? But everybody has their own role that they play in the family. Yeah. And so for sure, that brother and that sister don't get along. Okay, so it's going to come out at that family meal. They're going to cause turbulence in each other's minds because that's what they are in the habit of doing since they were little kids. Yeah. And married couples, oh my goodness, when you've been married a long time, you know how to cause turbulence in somebody else's mind because you know them so well. I mean, that's family, isn't it? You know people so well, you know what's going to upset them. And so sometimes, in your mind, they're being obnoxious. So you just say something that is going to press one of their buttons. And then when they get unhappy, you go, what's wrong with you? Did I do something to upset you? Oh, I didn't do anything. I'm so glad I got them where it hurts. Okay. So, definitely causing turbulence in the hearts of others. It's kind of like when you're a kid and your parents make you do something you don't want to do, then you make a very strong intention. I am not going to enjoy this. Okay, so your parents, you're 14. Last thing you want to do is go out to dinner with your parents. You'd much rather be with your friends. Your parents say, no, we're going out to dinner. I don't want to, Mom and Dad. We're having a happy family dinner. Get in the car. Okay. I don't want to. Why do I have to go? I want to be with my friends. They're all going to do video games, something. Yeah? So they're making me. So what am I going to do? I am going to show them how unhappy I am because they made me do something I don't want to do. So we go out to dinner. What do you want to eat? Nothing. How was school today? Tell me about your sports activities, yeah, or your artistic things. Yeah. Then the food comes. You want some pizza? Okay. You get the idea. We do this as adults too. You know? Yeah, somebody else wants you to do something. You don't want to do it, but yeah, okay, we're married. I'll do what you want. You know, I'll tell you that you look good. You know, yes, we'll go out for a nice romantic meal. Yeah. Yeah. And you get so much pleasure out of being just uncooperative. Yeah. Somebody at the Abbey, you know, one of those people who has rank over you, because we're so hierarchical here, you know. So somebody else says, vacuum the floor, please. I vacuumed the floor last week. So-and-so hasn't vacuumed the floor for 4 weeks now. Yeah, so what? Well, it's not fair. Why should I have to vacuum the floor again? Do you think you're going to get ordained with that kind of mind? Yeah, that's not a quality of ordained people. Okay, I'll vacuum the floor. You know, it's this whole big room, but in 5 minutes you're done. And all the dirt is still there. Yeah. The other person comes and, I thought you were vacuuming the floor. I did. Can't you see? Oh, yeah, I see a lot of dirt. And you're going, you made me do it. I'm not going to cooperate. Oh, I can see that some people know what I'm talking about. Okay. For definitely causing turbulence in the hearts of others, you know, making them miserable. Okay, so what are we going to do in the future? We're going to try and cooperate. We're going to try and be kind. Yeah, we're going to try and at least be truthful and helpful. Okay, because that way we won't continue to create the same karma for the mental unhappiness that we're currently experiencing. Yeah, if you don't create the cause, you won't get the result. Okay, and in addition, what else will I do? From now on, I will take all suffering upon myself. So this is the taking and giving meditation that I explained last night. So you can think of all the people with mental unhappiness. So many of them. I mean, people who have been kicked out of their homes, either because of war or poverty or who knows what. Yeah, they have not only physical suffering, but mental suffering. People who are filled with anxiety, fear, depression, loneliness. Yeah, we have so many different kinds of mental suffering. Then you imagine those people in front of you, and with a compassionate heart, you think, as long as I'm miserable, may I take on all their mental misery myself. And then you imagine it leaving them in the form of smoke. Yeah, you inhale it, it becomes this lightning bolt, or it becomes the organic detergent. Soap sounds better than detergent. But this lump at your heart of your own self-centeredness and ignorance, it totally demolishes that, leaves you with open space in your heart. And then you think of transforming your body, wealth, enjoyments, and even your virtue, and giving that to all these people who have mental suffering. Yeah. And when you do that practice, it does something to your own mental suffering. Yeah. When you start to think of others' mental suffering and you have compassion and want to take it, from them. It's interesting. Do it and see what happens to your own mental suffering. It doesn't appear to be such a big deal anymore. Yeah. And so much of our mental suffering is due to this self-centered thought. So in this meditation, we're destroying our self-centered thought and cultivating love and compassion for others. And so we will feel better. But if you do the meditation so that you'll feel better, well, okay, I'm going to take on all their suffering because I'll feel better, then it doesn't work. You have to really have some compassionate attitude towards others, wanting them to be free of their mental suffering. And when you think of mental suffering, when we think of misery, we tend to think of people who are poor or oppressed. The rich also have an incredible amount of mental suffering. Yeah. I mean, you look, election season is coming. Actually, it never ended. We've been in election season since 2020. But do you think that those candidates who spend so much time criticizing other people, inventing faults and accusations that are not true about their competitors, do you think those people are happy? Yeah. They may be wealthy, they may be famous, but are they happy? I don't know about you, but I wouldn't trade places with those people. Yeah, I think it's quite miserable. Mm-hmm. So, so really be broad when you think of misery, especially the mental kind. Yeah. Okay. So I've gone over time, but maybe one or two questions. Oh, now hands. Okay, Clyde.
So when you speak about virtuous actions causing happiness, am I correct to understand that you're saying virtuous actions cause the abandonment of attachment, aversion, and ignorance? Or are you saying that it causes pleasant feelings?
It causes, the main thing karma ripens into is our feelings. So that would cause us to have pleasant feelings in some kind of situation in the future. Yeah. And what was the other option? That it ripens into
The abandonment of attachments, ignorance.
Yeah. When you do virtuous things, if you practice generosity, it definitely helps subdue your miserliness and stinginess. Yeah. When you practice, speaking kindly, it definitely subdues the mind that likes to inflict pain through our speech. Yeah. Okay. You had. Mm-hmm. Yeah, behind. There's a little button. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. My question is kind of related to this gentleman's. I think, so some of the things that many of us want, and we've heard you talk about today, like wealth, beauty, material things, like on some level, they certainly bring pleasure and seem like positive circumstances that would be the result of positive karma ripening. But like on another level, they seem to increase our attachment to those same things, and then also can bring their own sets of problems. So I guess I've often wondered when I think about these things, are these actually like, do we want those things in our life or do we not? And yeah. I don't know how to think about it.
Exactly. As soon as you have a car, you experience car hell because your car is going to break down, As soon as you have a computer, you experience computer hell. Okay? So this is our situation in cyclic existence, in that, even we get something that is pleasant, that seems to be good circumstances, that doesn't last, and it brings its own set of problems. Yeah. So then you say, well, what then? How do I want to be happy? How do I, what's really the cause of happiness? So here's where Dharma practice comes in. And when we can free our minds from ignorance and attachment and clinging and anger, that brings a lot of happiness and just peace in our own hearts. Okay? Because the thing is, our worldview of that happiness and suffering exist outside, that's totally wrong. We do get some pleasant feelings from different things, and we need a certain amount of good conditions in order to practice the Dharma. But those things are not going to lead to everlasting happiness. Yeah. And so what does is, what's the source? We have to look at what's the real source of our misery. And it lies in the mind. Yeah. We think attachment brings us happiness. When we really examine closely, also attachment makes us miserable. We think retaliation and being angry makes us powerful. When we look closely, it doesn't. It makes us more miserable. So what's the real thing to deal with is these mental factors. Yeah, because if we are able to change our way of thinking, then it's possible to be happy in situations that previously we would have been totally miserable in. Yeah. So, so that's kind of the root of what we have to do. It's changing what's inside here, not just trying to arrange our duckies out there. Mm-hmm. Microphone back here.
You brought up the presidential election coming up. I've been seeing the headlines and felt the constriction of that.
Yeah.
The past couple of elections, and this has something to do with karma, but the past couple of election cycles, I just vote. That's what I tell myself. Just vote. That's the most powerful thing I can do. You know, things have changed a lot in our country over the past year in terms of human rights. And I think about human rights, and I think about the concept of come, come, go, go, and it concerns me. And then I think, well, you know, I'll be dead. You know, I'll just, you know, continue to vote, and that's really all I can do. But then I think about, yes, I am going to die, but others will still be here. Perhaps the way I can lessen other people's suffering is to really get involved politically. But then when I do get involved politically, my mind becomes disturbed.
Yeah.
So
Really?
can you help me think through that?
I wonder why that happens. Yeah, I think many people are questioning themselves that way too. And also because when your mind gets disturbed, then what you're doing no longer really becomes virtue, because your mind becomes just like the mind of the other people who you're critical of, and there's no difference. So this is why we think in long distance, in the scope of multiple lives. Okay, maybe all we can do this lifetime is vote. Yeah, because we look at our own situations. No, I'm not going to be effective as a political leader, but I care about people. I'll do what I can in my own neighborhood, in my own capacity, because we can always do something. We cannot change the entire world, yeah, but we can do something, at least, you know, with a positive mind, a virtuous mind for the people around us, so that our mind doesn't get all twisted and crazy. Yeah. So we do that, but we also think long term. And this is why when we talk about attaining liberation from the cycle of existence, when we talk about attaining full awakening, yeah, then when we are able to change our mind and free ourselves of the mental afflictions and really enhance our virtuous qualities, then we'll be able to do a lot to benefit sentient beings. Yeah. Right now, maybe a little, we do what we can, but long term, even if it takes many lifetimes, we want to go towards this other state where we'll be able to do a lot. Okay. Okay. So let's dedicate now. We'll just do the dedication verses.
Due to this merit, may we
soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Okay, so short break and then meditation. Okay.
So for all those online as well, we'll have the next meditation at 11:15 Pacific time, whatever that time is for you. But in about 25 minutes, go online. The meditation's on the Zoom link in the chat box. You can register, and everyone else here will be in the hall at 11:15 as well.